This is the largest university factory in the United States. Iowa State now produces 41 million artillery shells per year. The factory covers an area of 80 square kilometers, which is equivalent to the area of more than 100 Forbidden City. The factory was introduced in Bordeaux, Iowa, USA in the third year. It is the only military factory in the United States that can produce gunpowder and explosives at the same time. It is the main ammunition manufacturing plant of the U.S. Army, specializing in the production and maintenance of various types of ammunition and explosives. It has advanced production equipment and can meet the needs of large-scale ammunition production. It plays an important role in the U.S. defense industry and provides various ammunition support for the U.S. military. The main task is to produce and maintain various types of ammunition and explosives, including artillery shells, rockets, missiles, explosives, and other explosive devices. It is also responsible for the assembly, packaging, and quality control of ammunition to ensure that the production is in compliance with strict quality standards. The ammunition produced every year can maintain the daily training of the U.S. military. A factory has a fixed effect and still produces it, but it has to be the same as the play. It can be said that the sunny day and white clouds of the U.S. military industry are the children of the family. Iowa Army University is often the main manufacturer of the U.S. Army. It has the ability to produce various types of bullets, including rifle bullets, pistol bullets, and other types of bullets. It can be said that as long as you can tell the model, they can find that the ammunition of this model can be exported and defeated according to his strength, but it cannot be based on his ability to produce 41 bullets per year. It can be said that if the order quantity is less than 10, they will not even look at it. There is no injury, and the person in charge of the factory may not be able to see the order of tens of millions. If the number of orders is less than 10,000, the other party will tell you kindly that it is recommended that you make Lingxiao, because there has been no order with such a low number. Now the production technology is integrated stamping. It can be said that the machine has been opened and produces 1 million bullets on the same day. There is no difference with the replacement. There are many kinds of bullets, such as common shotgun bullets and rifle or pistol bullets. Although the manufacturing processes of these times are very different, they are all made of raw materials. First of all, the most important, lethal part of the pistol rifle or sniper rifle is the privileged bullet head water bullet gun, which is a small steel ball. Except for the difference in some models, the role is no different. They are all for causing residents to have opinions. The active bullet is a weapon that can cause lethality. It only causes the fox to cause the greatest burden of a slight burning magic damage effect. So if the arrow wants to cause damage, at least an initial kinetic energy is required. This kinetic energy is the active rest of her quantitative gunpowder in the writing lamp mouth to explode. Tencent's powerful thrust takes the lead in acceleration, thereby generating lethality. Finally, the theme of the era is overall surgery. Although the metal shell plays an auxiliary role in our impression, its importance is beyond your imagination. The distinction of the team, the chair, is her reminder distinction. We often say 7.62 or call good face, but it is the size of the whole era. The larger the reminder of the bullet, the larger the gunpowder that can be loaded, the more kinetic energy converted. And what is sad enough, this is the theorem, otherwise ECO can bring the lethality of an atomic bomb. Switching 6 lanes, it is easy to produce qualified era parts. As long as there are raw materials, primary and secondary school students can find out. There is no technical difficulty, but the efficiency is not high. Maybe in a year my era has not started the factory yet, and the production in half an hour is the era of the Iowa Army University factory. The production mainly adopts integrated stamping. Whether it is the head or the eggshell, it can be completed by one stamping. The efficiency is at least 1,000 times that of the success. The fluctuating head requires different copper bar thicknesses, and the processed copper plates will be continuously fed into the stamping machine. Conduct preliminary vehicle research. The set route passes through the stamping parts in turn. Because it is automated, very little material is wasted. Only a small part of the metal is not wasted by the metal liquid of the duck foot part, and it will be sent to the designated place to accept bribes and reload the class. This is on another production line. It not only needs to be stamped, but also needs to be stretched to a certain extent to become the tank we are familiar with. International bullets are generally made of brass, because copper has good ductility and can meet many different requirements at the same time. Opening is very important. If it is good, the internal filling work will inevitably be carried out. Reducing the legs will not work because it will affect the quality or the power generated when the explosion occurs, and it is very likely to explode the string. The risk of napping fried candy has been difficult to control since the success of the week. Is there any way for the Big Brother to ensure that every shot before can maintain the same taste? After all, the population is not a machine. There is an inherent deficiency in the control of power. Although it is the same material, there is an additional process for variable trajectory, which is the return process. After all, it has been stamped. The reason for the fog light oral sex is that stamping is stretching. There are many internal stresses inside that cannot be reduced and cooled, and there is no way to proceed to the next step of assembly. These produced bullets and shells are sent to the same place by the track for assembly, but here the arrow will complete the final assembly. What is the stock? This is the real machine ringing gold and 10,000 tales of railway station. As the saying goes, the neighbor classmate swallows the gun, and the neighbor is the living granary. In the powerful life form, the biological clock is mainly recommended. There is no bullet that cannot be solved. If there is, there are not enough bullets. I gave the first day of production. If all the parts of the human body were clear on one person, the police's final closing report would be all-powerful. A small amount of human body parts were found in this generation. The largest in the United States, but how strong is the factory? Ye's daily production can install a country's military industry. As a military factory established by the United States to supplement ammunition during World War II, it is naturally impossible to produce all kinds of bullets here. It also produces ammunition needed for various paths, including shells and bullets that crawl to death in shell mines. Although there is no difference in appearance and structure, the full-screen map is enlarged, but the quantity is essentially different. The bullet is at most a one-time damage. It happened once, but it caused secondary damage, etc. In the final analysis, it still belongs to kinetic damage or physical level. But the shell can also produce explosive damage after the impact. Let's not talk about other works. The impact force of the shell is set, but the conditions are poor, but at most it can only be a feast. The amazing can penetrate a millimeter steel plate. The impact force of the shell can directly penetrate the sand concrete wall. The subsequent explosion is magic damage. If the wedding is opened, I believe it can go to the next level. Few people can survive within a radius of 2 meters. It can be said that whether it is hit directly by a shell or a shell falls on oneself, the father is basically a persimmon. Take the traditional shells as an example, which are roughly composed of eggshells and egg whites. The firing method is the same as the era. The gunpowder in the hidden report generates thrust to launch the projectile. The shell of the shell is larger, and more gunpowder can be loaded, and the thrust generated is greater. If it were not for the exchange tracking, the era of the machine gun would theoretically fly tired. The gunpowder is based on different usage scenarios. There are also different classifications of shells, such as armor-piercing flares and the most common explosions, but each has a different production process. Unlike the shells and exchanges of the on-the-spot stamping shells of the era, they are generally handed over to special factories after they are made, and gunpowder is filled inside and then filled. Before, the front end of the shell needed to be unscrewed, and then different convenient gunpowder and special fillers could be filled according to different types of shells. The shells with the greatest damage are generally filled with some shrapnel or steel balls. The consumption of the gate is not my house, which produces secondary damage in addition to the explosion damage. Although the damage is not as high as the direct explosion, the power should not be underestimated. After all, the damage of weapons is basically performance damage. If you only have 100 HP, the damage of the turret may be at least a few hundred damage in a short range. There may be a gap in the data, but it makes no difference to you. Anyway, it is impossible to lose a few lives. It must be strictly installed and operated through the set procedures, and the packaging work must be carried out after completion. Navigation voice naturally cannot be randomly discharged. There must be a buffer between the turrets to prevent collisions during transportation, thereby causing explosions. Although this situation rarely occurs with current technology, we are not afraid of accidents, but we are afraid of accidents. After all, they are transported in pieces. In case of accidents, the insurance should be more than 10,000. This kind of mechanical arm generally handles small shells and large turrets, because it reminds me that a larger machine is needed for efficiency reasons. The surgery of the turret was completed to maintain the appearance. It enables heating treatment deep into the skull. This step is to facilitate shaping, and also to eliminate internal stress and other external shapes. After the shape is fixed, it must go through a series of operations such as polishing and grinding. In addition to the different proportions of gunpowder filling, the biggest difference between different artillery shells lies in the internal parts. It can be said that the difference between the exchange of different artillery platforms cannot be said to be a world of difference, at least they are different. After waiting for the opportunity to talk about the production problem, the assembly process will not be similar, but it will be so easy. Although the mechanized city temple is smooth, the artillery shells may be too large due to the terrain. If you want to build an automated production line like a tape, the area occupied is too large, so some operations in this step still need to be successfully completed. The biggest difference between artillery shells and the times, in addition to the size of the power, is that it is worth it. There is no need to install additional fireflies. You only need to install it into a kisser to launch the artillery platform. You need to occasionally install a long march when launching, otherwise you can't complete the launch. After all, the reminder gap between the times and the artillery platform is there. The stone disease needs to be used like a bullet inside the gun. The certificate can be detonated, and the power of the artillery shell is not great. As it is, the phone of the artillery is also very important. Cannot be the same as yourself. You need to pack it in a bag before you can put the shells in. Because the power and structure of the two are different, it is to prevent problems during transportation. If an accident occurs, one of the walking reports is the fault of the cloud era. Nothing will happen. It is just that the era has become a wild team. There will be no problem on the battlefield, but the shells are not connected. If they are intentionally detonated during transportation, let alone on the battlefield, the entire transport vehicle will have to say goodbye to this world, and the people in the car will not have to deal with it. If the suspension is lowered, many American troops use the shells produced by this factory during training. After all, the history of this factory is longer than the founding of some countries, and it has not been banned until now. It is obvious that the command is these two sounds and the speed is fast enough. And now with the Party of the World pattern, the orders for the factory street are increasing, and the shells produced by the production vehicle will be directly delivered to those who need it in the form of aid. The reason why I still have a steady supply of arms is partly due to him. According to statistics, the United States has sent me more than 1,155mm shells so far, and at least half of these shells are sent to me. There are pepper paths in the car. What will happen if the U.S. weapons factory is fully operational? As the largest pharmaceutical factory in the United States, it can be said that there is nothing it can't do except what you can't think of. Nowadays, everything bullets, shells and other series of universities can be bought here. It can be said that this is the largest ammunition production base in the United States. In addition to common bullets and shells, the factory also produces mines, bombs, grenades and weapons and ammunition. They are used as a necessary artifact for close-range assaults, whether it is offense or defense, and the lethality at short distances is no less than careful shells. If the number is large enough, a winning group can't remember a word. The operation method is also quite simple. Just pull the bowl and take the car. It can be said that there is almost no need to consider the whole set. This requires people to be stronger, don't be unparalleled, and just go around with money. And the most important point is that it is cheap. Although the United States is not short of money, it still needs people to be happy. Although the current war has been deployed, in the kind of war that can only be led by a large number of soldiers charging collectively, the role of the worry type is still not written. The simplest point is that people go to aim, and they only need to throw the snake to the approximate range. The harm of the co-pilot is worse than that of the gun. The disguised footsteps are easier to use than the gun, and the production process of the involved is not complicated. People who master the relevant knowledge can greatly exceed it at home. The power is different. After all, a large part of China in those days was later complained about. Although the power is much higher than the normal value, it is still more damaging than its own. In terms of driving mode, this should be discussed in a confused way. The driving methods of chemical weapons and other weapons are the same, using the explosion or the thrust generated by the explosion to scatter the lethal part. Therefore, the construction technology has always been the same as the construction method of the shell warhead. which is like filling gunpowder in a fixed container. The only difference in the stage film may be the difference in the way of protection. The alarm method of the shell warhead is checked by the superiors, and it may be varied. Like the shells, there are also many signals such as the common T in clothing, but the difference is the filling. However, the key point is that when using smoke bombs, people are foolishly prevented from stepping on the feet. It seems that the game does not need to seal the stage for a year so that the enemy can't see clearly. If possible, directly hit the opponent's face. Because smoke bombs can not only produce a large number of clothing interference events, these clothes usually contain irritating gases, which can interfere with human breathing to the maximum extent. If too much gas is inhaled at one time, it is likely to be fatal. In addition to minesweepers, the factory also produces the name. Except for previews, it does not produce them, and everything else can be produced, such as common anti-infantry mines. The penalty mechanism is very sensitive, and there will never be a plot in Chinese TV dramas that is not generated and does not explode unless it is called. In theory, it will explode instantly as long as it is generated. Use more sophisticated cables such as people driving in restaurants can find and pass normally, but vehicles cannot. These are all good means of wanfu, but they are rarely used now, so the production negotiation Iowa path to the factory. Now the most produced are shells in various models. In the era, because Russia launched a World War II, the United States needed to provide Ukraine with a large number of shells. The factory even had a 10-year contract to work day and night, just to provide Ukraine with ammunition to prevent Russia from expanding the war. The business was the first time this happened. Think about it once and it is not over yet. There are not many industries in the world that are most profitable, except for drugs and charging brands which have been recognized and have the most place. When the cannon sounds, gold is worth 1,000 taels. This sentence is not a joke. Well, the United States relies on arms trade for the whole family. The famous powers in the world also have arms trade. After all, technological competition is a business that does not lose money in a melee. Because of the conflict provoked by Russia this time, I have received tens of billions of dollars in aid, and most of this money has entered the pockets of military factories to purchase various signal shells and equipment. Although the military strength is good, it is still a little weak compared to Russia, so a lot of military assistance is needed. After all, soldiers cannot be sent to the battlefield without weapons. Soldiers without weapons are not even cannon fodder. Military enterprises that originally had a large number of orders are now working overtime to produce. Now the speed at which these factories make money can no longer be described as a large amount of money. The speed of making money is complete. The ammunition produced here every day needs to be loaded and unloaded by trucks. If you want a few days of Yunhui's painting, the trucks that transport goods need to be turned into trains. Tens of thousands of shells can be used every day. The era of the seat file is continuously produced. It can be said that the factory can also produce 1/5 of the U.S. Army training or use, but it requires a continuous supply of guarantees. Several factories were designated on site, and the warming and regions were all shut down. Now many military factories have to withdraw due to the changes of the times, and many large pharmaceutical factories have been transformed into museums. However, the factories are still producing various ammunitions. After nearly 10 years of ups and downs, it has not only not been eliminated, but it is still leading the way and is known as the evergreen tree in the U.S. military industry.